r/AskReddit asks, those of you who were around in the 70s, what was it like seeing Star Wars for the first time? In my small town theater, Star Wars was the only thing playing for what I remember to be over 2 months. I would scrape together enough to buy a ticket, $1.25, and I would walk downtown and watch Star Wars 3-4 times a week. In all, I saw Star Wars several dozen times during its first run. The very first time I saw it, I remember being in awe at the size of the Star Destroyer. I was hooked from the very beginning. That's what I remember. That Star Destroyer went on forever. It's such a vivid memory for me. It's the same type of memory as seeing the second plane hit the World Trade Center on the morning news. Different feelings, of course, but the memory is just as vivid. Even though one was entertainment and one was a horrible tragedy, they were both life-changing things to experience, and are seared into my memory. I was 13 and it was amazing to see something that looked real. The dirt and grime and everything, it felt like a whole real universe. No shiny silver suits and big fin rockets. The designs were amazing and Vader was the first cool bad guy. And of course the lightsabers just blew everyone away. I was the same age. What grabbed me was how much more advanced and believable the effects were, compared to previous sci-fi. This was the first time I totally engaged in suspension of disbelief, watching the movie, and found myself in another world. I had no idea what it was about going in, but it surely had a huge impact on me. I was real young, but I remember the opening scene having a big impact, scared the crap out of me actually. I remember everyone talking about how many times they'd each seen it in the theaters. Kiss scared the crap out of me too. The 70s was a wild and scary time to grow up. Asked my dad. When the destroyer first passed overhead, people were gasping, oohing, and ahhing. Yeah, and now when we see several hundred on screen at the same time, it's like, meh. The music, and the huge fucking spaceship slowly filling the screen. The pew 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 sounds as well. So exciting for a kid. I actually quit a job to go see the opening in my area. And amp, number X200B, it was a shitty busboy job at some horrid restaurant in a mall. A York steakhouse, actually. I told them I was going. They said they couldn't get anyone else to work that night. I said goodbye. And amp, number X200B, it was a generational jump in movies, at the time. I remember the first time I watched it with surround sound and realizing that there's a low-key rumble at all times when they're in the Death Star, really sets you on edge and makes you anxious. It's so perfect. I was 7, and initially wasn't that interested, but my dad was curious, so we made plans to go. I did something that day to get in trouble, can't remember what, and the trip was temporarily called off, but by this point Dad really wanted to see it, so we went. Life-changing is too tried. I fell in love instantly, became obsessed with the figures, everything. Still love it 42 years later. It's also the only movie that I've seen in a theater with my dad. I saw it in the theater when I was 5. It's one of my first fun memories. I was 19 and a huge sci-fi fan. 2001: A Space Odyssey had been the great space sci-fi film to that point. But there were others that were awesome too. The Day the Earth Stood Still, War of the Worlds, Forbidden Planet. The original versions of these films are all great, even today. But then we saw Star Wars. And from the opening scene where we pan up from that planet, see the Corvette taking hits and then, see the Star Destroyer, it was like, oh, brother, what magic is this? We were simultaneously dumbfounded but also thinking, holy buckets, this is amazing. When Star Wars came out, I was working as a projectionist. I was totally mesmerized at the first showing. I had never seen anything on screen that came close to it. At the end of the first week, and 16 showings later, I still enjoyed it, but it kinda got old. I still remember the majority of the dialogue. Early in the 90s went to a showing of the original trilogy in Grand Rapids. By the end of Empire we were all getting a bit punchy and irritable, and cracking jokes out loud. Nobody seemed to mind. I was in my early teens. It was transformative. I saw it 13 times in the theaters. Princess Leia was more of a hero than a helpless princess. She was smart and fierce and didn't take crap from anyone, not even a walking carpet, and I wanted to be just like that. You posted this? You're braver than I thought. I remember friends that saw it first and couldn't stop talking about it. There was no commercials or any indication it was going to be anything other than any other movie. Seeing it was like seeing something that never existed till you sat down and watched it. I think I saw it a few times that summer. In those days there wasn't a stream of movies coming out. I want to say I think I saw it the following summer as well. This was before VHS were in vogue, so you really had to see it multiple times at the theater. Then that Christmas there were a few toys that came out, but nothing like nowadays. My parents took me to see it at a local theater when it came out. I was an instant fan and had the action figures, the trading cards, was Princess Leia for Halloween, etc. Believe it or not, we thought the effects were awesome. You couldn't even see the strings holding the spaceships. I just got through A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. The effects are amazing even today. I was 10, utterly amazing. Up until that time sci-fi space movies were poorly done as far as special effects, excluding 2001 SO, which I hadn't seen. The opening scrolling introduction with the music pretty much got you excited as hell, followed by the monster starship. You knew it was going to be great. I also think being that age your mind is much more open to accepting and engaging in the fantasy. Combine that with a complete lack of knowledge about the movie made for a wild ride. At my age it was just known as a great space movie. 6-year-old me was very impressed. Also, the THX thing has always been loud. My grandmother took me the last time I saw it in a theater. I was being a smartass because I didn't think she'd do it. She said the movie was okay, but it was very loud. This is significant because she was 60% deaf at the time. Asterisk and Leah asterisk. I was 7 and saw it with my dad. It was an older Art Deco theater, only 2 screens, both showing Star Wars. We stood in a line that wrapped around the theater, got in 2 or 3 shows after we planned. Mom was pissed because they didn't call her and let her know. The intro was just mind-blowing, particularly to a 7-year-old, but I could tell my dad was pretty blown away too. Honestly, I can't really express it in words, and I don't think the experience has ever been rivaled. Movies like that just didn't exist until Star Wars. It had everything and I was Star Wars obsessed immediately, pretty much still am now. I was completely traumatized by the trash compactor scene. I'm 50 now, and I think watching it again would still wig me out a bit. But I remember the theme playing after the movie. I had never heard anything like it, so inspiring. John Williams made the best soundtracks ever. I was 13 and I went with my parents to the Fox Theater, I believe in Hollywood, CA. I was completely blown away by the special effects. The opening narrative crawling up into nothingness, the huge Star Destroyer pulling the smaller ship inside, the first 10 minutes had me hooked. Even though the new movies are even more spectacular to watch, nothing will replace that feeling seeing it the first time.